Well, hello there, AP Psychology students. Today we are going to be reinforcing what we learned about experimental design controls, and we're going to look at an actual experiment. But before we do that, I have a question for you. Have you ever been in a situation where someone's clearly in trouble, and yet there are so many other people around, you're just like, I can go by, somebody else will take care of it. So one day I was at the Holodazzle Parade in Minneapolis, and I was sitting up in the skyway back when the parade was still going on with my two daughters. And after the parade, hundreds of people got up and they were starting to leave. And out of Macy's comes this guy who looks something like this, except that his pants zipper was also undone. He wasn't holding a bottle, but he was definitely stumbling, and he really looked like he was in trouble. A few people said, "Hey, buddy, you okay?" And then they just kept walking. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this guy is really in trouble. Like, maybe he's having a stroke. And my daughter's like, "Mom, he's just drunk. Just let him go." And I'm like, how can I let him go? Like, if I let him go, he could go down the stairs and he could get a concussion. Or worse yet, he could go in a car, and I might hear on the news about a drunk man leaving the Holodazzle that killed somebody in a car. So I made a compromise with my daughters, and I called 911, and I followed him until 911 caught up with him, and then I was able to leave him with them. I really was worried about him, but I knew, because I've studied psychology enough to know, that there were so many people around, and they did not want to get involved. Well, the same thing happened with this woman here. Her name is Kitty Genovese, and Kitty, sadly, was murdered on the streets of New York. I'm going to read to you what happened to her. I mean, it's kind of horrible, but I think it's good to know the context of the research study that came from this incident. So in this book called Opening Skinner's Box, the author tells the story. It was Friday, March the 13th, actually, in the year 1964. The early pre-dawn hours of Queens, New York were cool and moist, breezes carrying the scent of snow. Kitty was coming home from her late-night shift at the bar where she worked as a manager. Genovese, 28, was a slender woman with punkish black hair and a delicate pixie face. Her eyes were gem green. She drove her car into a parking lot adjacent to her apartment, where she lived alone. She pulled her car into the space and stepped out. It was 3 a.m. She noticed just after her first strides toward her building a hunched figure in the distance, a suspicious-looking man. So quickly she veered right towards the police call box on the corner. Kitty never made it to the callback box. The man, later identified as Winston Mosley, screwed a knife deep into her back, and then when she turned to face him, deep in her gut as well, and there was blood. She screamed. She said specifically these words, "Oh my God, he stabbed me! Please help me! Please help me!" Immediately, lights flickered on in the crowded urban neighborhood. Mosley saw them. In his trial, he said he saw the lights, but he didn't feel those people were coming down the stairs. Instead of coming down, someone yelled, "Let that girl alone." And so Mosley ran off, and Kitty, stabbed in several places, dragged herself into the shadow of a bookstore door where she lay. The same kind of situation happened over a half-hour period with 3 separate attacks by Winston Mosley, where he saw the lights in the apartment building, and this is actually where she lived, and people here saw it as well. They saw the lights, but they didn't do anything. They didn't call the police. Somebody or a couple of people yelled down, "Let that girl alone." But in the end, she died with 38 witnesses. The people of New York were horrified. The New York Times published this story, and they actually called for some of the witnesses to be arrested and to be charged with being an accessory to a crime. Well, the psychologists named Laton and Darley were really curious about this phenomenon. Why did this happen? Why did so many people witness such a horrific crime? What was going on in their mind? And why didn't they call for help or step in to help? So the article you're going to read today is posted on Schoology. It's called "To Help or Not to Help." And there is a assignment that goes along with the article that has you break down the experiment. I'd like you to look for the independent and dependent variable. I'd like you to think about the possible confounding variables and how Laton and Darley controlled for those, and then answer the other questions from the study that are posted on the assignment. So your ABA is just a short assignment. Have you ever witnessed something where you didn't know if you should help or not? And your assignment for tonight is to read that article and complete the assignment that goes with it. So she was indeed killed. He was found, and he was sentenced to life in prison. He did admit to the murders. The murder. And, when he asked why he did it, he just said he wanted to see what it would feel like to kill somebody. So it's a very unusual case, but a really important case because of the study that it led to. Thank you and have a great day.